It's become common to label certain people like athletes as the greatest of all time, which leads to the acronym GOAT being given to them. And I have to confess, when I first started noticing people being called GOATs, I genuinely wondered why they were being compared to farm animals. Specifically farm animals that mostly just spend their day eating weeds. I was definitely confused even after I learned it was meant to be an acronym. After all, if people's favorite athletes or entertainers were named the best of all time, would they be boats? Would I be reviewing an animated film on a talking boat today instead? Anyway, the reason I'm giving this unusual introduction is because I guess someone at Sony Pictures Animation felt the same way as me, because they've produced this movie literally titled GOAT, inspired by the aforementioned acronym. Although the credits also state the movie was inspired by the book Funky Nuts by Chris Tugas, but it seems that book has not been published yet, as I cannot find any information on it other than it serving as the basis for this film. GOAT is the feature directing debut of Tyree Dillehay, whose most notable credit prior to this was directing several episodes of Bob's Burgers. But what did I think of this movie? I thought it provided a pleasant time that did show some creativity in the way Dillehay directed this otherwise familiar sports story. What stood out to me for a lot of the runtime is that the main stake is the lead protagonist, Will Harris, wanting to become a basketball player and then later wanting to help his team, the Thorns, win the championship. There are a few antagonists, like a horse on an opposing team, but for the most part we're largely watching Will trying to prove his playing abilities, endearing himself to the team, and then eventually taking part in the big games. Will he get his chance to shine, and will the Thorns win the games? Those are the main conflicts going on in this movie, and I found that kind of refreshing. I also found Will to be a very likable character. He's kind of in the mold of other animated characters I really like Flick in A Bug's Life, Danny in Cats Don't Dance, and Ron in Copperbottom in Robots. He's a genuinely good person who just wants to help others. Obviously he wants to be able to pay his rent, and he dreams of being a basketball player, but his motivation is still more out of a love for the game than fame and wealth. And even as he's kept largely on the bench for a while, his desire to help his teammates succeed remains, rather than feeling contempt for being left out. His teammates do manage to have distinct personalities that help them stand out. Most of the focus is on the team captain, Jet Fillmore, and I think they were able to make her embody that aging athlete trying to regain her glory days. And again, playing into the stakes of this movie, while she has some animosity towards Will and a few regretful comments are said by both of them, these are usually brushed aside after a while so they can return to focusing on winning the game. The other players don't get shortchanged, with a highlight coming from a Komodo dragon. Every time he's on screen, he manages to produce a laugh with his unusual behavior, and Nick Kroll does an excellent job of his vocal performance. Will's two friends are also amusing, and they provide some nice support for him throughout the film. GOAT does take advantage of this being a world populated by animals, with it using their specific abilities in clever ways. So Will is not merely a GOAT because of the acronym. It actually becomes a pivotal part of his character, and the same goes for the other animals, as there are several touches specific to their familiar animal instincts. This even applies to the basketball games, which provide a variety of settings. The animals move in specific ways that would be how those animals would participate in the game if they became anthropomorphic. Tyree Dillehay directs the games with a ton of energy as we see the animals move through the court, and the stadium environments even have an effect on the outcome. As expected from SBA, the animation is eye-catching, but I also found myself really admiring the production design. I like how so much of the cities are covered in flora and jungle plants, for example. Although there are a few throwaway lines here and there that raise some questions about the society. Characters make reference to eating other animals, so I guess this is an alternate Zootopia universe where predators do still go around eating prey, and it's somehow treated as a casual thing that the animals accept, even though it's kind of messed up. I would definitely be curious about the filmmakers possibly exploring this in a short if that is something they choose to expand upon. Like I said earlier, this is the familiar sports story. This is not a movie you are likely to find many surprises, as it tells a story common in underdog sports films. However, the sports genre is one that is not exactly known for twists and turns. The big question of most of them is whether the main characters can win whatever sport they're in, and either they win or they don't. It all depends on what the filmmakers are trying to accomplish with the story. I think in addition to the animation, the way the animals are used, what does carry GOAT is the likability of the lead character. There's a rooting interest in hoping Will can prove his worth to his teammates, and it is nice seeing their working relationships develop and find their confidence and unique abilities on the court. So in the end, I was invested in the games and seeing how they ultimately pan out.